Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to do another special review. This is going to be the second of my two crazy beer reviews that I'm doing for you on my 29th birthday, the 16th of December 2020. So as I said in the last review, a year closer to 30, getting old, getting more crazy and more forgetful. That's just how life goes. But for this review we are going to head over to Estonia once again, and we're going to have a look at yet another of the beers that I brought back with me from my recent trip over there. This is a brewery that has featured on the channel a couple of times before, and I would say that these guys have really made their name when it comes to the very high alcohol beers. This is one of those, and it is quite crazy in itself, but it's not the biggest of beers that I actually have from these guys in my cellar, and it's strange to think about when you see what this one is, as I mentioned. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. So for this review we are going to go to a little place called Keila in Harjumaa county, which is the county that contains Tallinn, the capital city in the northwest of Estonia, and we're going to have a look at yet another beer from Lehe Pruulikoda. So this particular beer is called Singularity. It comes in at 18% ABV, and this one is a bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout. So yeah, this beer is a little bit of a beast, but as I mentioned to you, this is not the heaviest beer that I have from these guys in my cellar. But very much looking forward to trying this one. I'm really curious just to see what this beer is like. I don't think, other than Tokyo from Brewdog in Scotland, I don't think other than that I've had an Imperial Stout that is quite as strong as this one. So I think this will be a nice treat for my 29th birthday. So yeah, very, very curious to see how this one turns out. I've had some really good beers from Lehe Pruulikoda in the past, and so hopefully this is another one that carries on in the same vein as that, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, since this is my birthday as well, I'll also give a big shout out and happy birthday to my good friend Paul Romeli over at PA Brew News. He is pretty much exactly 10 years older than I am, born on the 16th of December 1981. Big metalhead just like me, also a beer reviewer, and you know, we are pretty damn good friends, I have to say. I met him a couple of years ago in Manchester over in England. We had a great time with the English beer tubers, and I look forward to seeing him again in the summer of 2021. So you guys will see him feature on my channel a little bit in the future, and we will probably do some tastings together, do some out and about videos and stuff like that. So yeah, you will see Paul on the channel at some point. But in the meantime, do make sure you check out the link to his channel in the video description below, and go over there, wish him a happy birthday, give him a subscribe and show him some love. He reviews his beers in his basement with his black metal playing, and it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. So do make sure you go and show Paul some love and wish him a happy 39th birthday. Next year it will be his big 40, of course, and for me it will be the 30th, and you know, as we always say, that's when life really does start to go downhill, but who knows. But yeah, as I say, really looking forward to trying this one from Lehe, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's see how we get on. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Lehe Pruulikoda before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Estonian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly at the moment, because I still have quite a few Estonian beers left, and fingers crossed beyond that we can continue to add to it regularly as well, because I'm a big fan of the Estonian beers. There's some great quality stuff over there, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Lehe Pruulikoda then, on to my brewery notes. So Lehe Pruulikoda, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in a little place called Keila in Harjumaa county in Estonia, which you'll find to the southwest of Tallinn, the capital city in the northwest of the country, and this brewery was founded back in 2013 by Tarmo and Kristel Tali. So Tarmo and worked in the IT industry for many years, and he also homebrewed as a bit of a hobby, whereas Gristel had a background in business, and she was very keen to kind of hone her skills in a new field, if you like. She wanted to start up a new type of business. But during his homebrewing days, Tarmo was really interested in craft beers because of all the different yeast strains, malts and hops and things that you could use. Basically, it was an experimental playground for him, and apparently he was constantly asked by his friends when his beers would be available in bars and shops, and this really made him keen to have a go at brewing professionally, and that's what he did. So he says that the beers that he brews were basically the ones that he wanted to drink himself, and as I've mentioned to you already, these guys are very well known for their high alcohol beers. But these guys are based in an industrial estate in Keila, and they've gradually built up the brewery over the past couple of years, and it now has a capacity of 300,000 litres of beer per year. Last year though, in 2019, Tarmo and Gristel decided that they wanted to withdraw and return to the IT industry, so they sold the company to RampantLionReviews, who is the owner of the Uba Harjumaa shop in Tallinn, which you would have seen me do an out and about video for when I was there a couple of months back. Great shop, by the way, one that I do recommend that you check out. But this shop was founded back in 2014, and since 2017 they've also been brewing their own beers as a gypsy brewery as well. I do need to make sure I try some of those at some point, although I think those have been out of production for a little while in favour of the Lehe Pruulikoda ones. So I'll need to see about whether some of those beers have been re-released under the Lehe Pruulikoda name, or whether you can still get those Uba Harjumaa beers at the actual shop. So we'll see about sorting that in the future. But anyway, very good beer shop, and one that I definitely recommend that you check out. And as I said, over the last few years they've continued to build up their capacity, produce new beers, and as of December 2020, when I'm reviewing this one for you, they've produced around 140 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. Mainly high alcohol beers from what I gather, but you can get some really nice lower alcohol ones as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Lehe Pruulikoda for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. That is the end of your history section for this video. So as you can see with this one, the artwork on it is, you know, very, very nice. It's quite simple and straightforward, but I think it works very, very well. There you can see Singularity. Oh, I've got that up the wrong way. I should put it this way. There you can see Singularity. It's got a lovely kind of vinyl, I guess, is this vinyl? I think you would call this a sort of vinyl layer around the bottle. But as I said to you, this one is a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout, 18% ABV. It is a little bit of a monster. There you can see the Lehe Pruulikoda symbol on the bottle cap there, which is very, very nice. And it says on the back here, it's just got a little blurb there. It says, it is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of water and life freely. Revelations 26:1. But yeah, that is pretty cool, I have to say. They're not, you know, the Estonians aren't very religious people in my experience, but I guess this is just maybe a biblical verse that they think is talking about beer, so I guess quite appropriate. But yeah, there you can see on the back as well the symbol for the Estonian Independent Brewers Association, Eesti Käsitööly. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not, because Estonian is a very difficult language. It's one of the Finno-Ugric languages, but yeah, there you can see, as I said, the symbol for the Estonian Independent Craft Beers Association, the Estonian, you can see Estonian Craft Beer, Eesti Käsitööly. But yeah, 18% Imperial Stout, this one bourbon barrel aged, and it's said here that this one is best before the 31st of December 2025. But when it's 18%, you probably can age this one for a good while and it's not going to go bad. But you probably would need to put a wax seal on it just to make sure. But yeah, let's get this guy out then and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. You can see a little bit of smoke on the opening there, but let's get it out and into the glass. And I'm going to say straight away with this one, I am drinking the full beer myself, just because, why not? It's not often that you get to do things like this. It's not often that you get to try an 18% Imperial Stout. So we're just going to go for it, sip on it and enjoy this one. This is basically a beer that's going to last me all night. I had the same with the Aroma Damascus Steel. I sat and drank that one night in one evening. That lasted me about 4 hours or something like that because it was just so rich. So I'm guessing this one will probably be the same. But yeah, I think this should be a really, really interesting beer. So as you can see, and as you would expect from an 18% Imperial Stout, this one has poured a lovely dark ebony rosewood colour. You can see from sugarling this beer about in the glass, the lacing on this one, you can see just how long that's taken to go down. That's usually an indicator of how heavy the alcohol content is. But if we put this beer up to the light, there's absolutely nothing coming through this one. This one is black as night. It's as black as the label that is on this beer. You can see that when we poured the beer, there was less than a quarter finger of a frothy dark tan head. That's faded away to just be a very, very kind of thin layer. There is a few kind of wisps on it, but as you go around the kind of edge of the glass, there is just a little thin foamy ring of a medium tan froth there. But there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. There's a few little ones going up towards the surface of the beer there. But I mean, overall, this one does look pretty good. Remember, the colour of your beer is dependent on a couple of things. One, the type of malts that you use, and two, the length of the boil. I'm guessing that when this beer is 18%, it might be a double or even triple mash Imperial Stout, and it's probably undergone a very, very long boil actually, probably about 6 hours or 7 hours, maybe even longer than that actually. That's the way that you usually kind of concentrate the sugars and do things like that. And you do have special yeasts that you have to use in these beers as well. But yeah, this beer I would surmise is probably undergone a boil of like 6 hours minimum to produce this, and it's probably got 2, maybe even 3 mashes in it. So pretty damn special, I have to say. Not often that you'll come across an 18% Imperial Stout. So yeah, that is pretty crazy. But yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one and see how we got on. But in terms of its appearance, nothing particularly surprising when you consider what style of beer this one actually is. So yeah, let's take a look at that aroma then. Oh, I'm just going to say straight away, that beer smells absolutely beautiful. Yeah, you can smell the bourbon barrel aging in this one straight away. You get that lovely, the lovely kind of smooth oaky quality really forms the backbone of this one. So yeah, that lovely smooth American oak in there, and you can smell that just kind of brown sugary note from the American bourbon in there. As I've told you in previous videos, for me, when it comes to whiskey, the American bourbons have always been a little bit brighter and more kind of brown sugary than the Scotch whiskies. Of course, the Scotch whiskies for me are a little bit more kind of grainy, dark, and sometimes kind of toasty, but the American ones, as is the case with the craft beers to be honest as well, the American ones are definitely kind of sweeter and smoother and things like that. But yeah, the aroma of this beer is just absolutely beautiful, I have to say. So yeah, you've got that lovely big smooth oaky note out of it. There's a bit of vanilla in there. You've got those lovely big kind of brown sugary notes from the bourbon. It's just absolutely lovely. I mean, you've got a little bit of an almost kind of leathery quality to it as well, which I think is very interesting. I mean, in some ways this beer is very, very straight shooting, but in other ways it's got a real depth of complexity to it, this one. So it's a bit difficult to describe in that sense for you. This is one of these ones that you really just need to kind of try for yourself. But I'm going to say straight away, it smells just absolutely lovely. So yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful smelling beer. But yeah, with this one, as I say, it smells as if the kind of oaky woodiness is forming the backbone of the beer. You've got that kind of bourbon brown sugar kind of thing just infused into it. You get a little bit of vanilla in there, and that itself is just the backbone of this beer. But on top of that, you do have a nice kind of silky sort of chocolatey quality to it. You can smell that it's quite a heavy cocoa chocolate, this one. I would say maybe about yeah, the chocolatey notes that you get out of this one, I would say are, you know, sort of 70% cocoa. It's not the darkest of cocoa chocolates that you're going to get, but at the same time it's not the lightest. There are one or two elements of a more milky kind of chocolate coming into this one, but yeah, the cocoa chocolate notes that you get out of this beer are pretty impressive, I have to say. Like, it's really well balanced between that milky and that more high cocoa end of things. There is a little bit of brown sugar to this one. It does have a little bit of that kind of treacly sort of thing to it. I wouldn't, the treacle molasses, I guess, as the Americans would call it, so it's got a little bit of that, but yeah, I mean, it's not, as I say, this is a beer, it's not going to blow the head off you in terms of its kind of cocoa content, and it's quite a silky chocolate, as I say. It's not overly dry, it's not overly kind of dark and roasty and toasty and things. It is just kind of nicely, pieced together in a lot of ways. If you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply, you will get one or two of the kind of roasty, toasty elements out of this one, but to be quite honest with you, the overall vibe that you get out of this beer is like very slick and very, very kind of smooth and silky, to be honest with you. So yeah, those kind of aromas that I'm talking about there, they sit on top of that nice kind of woody quality. You have a lovely, yeah, you've just got the you know, that lovely woody base that this beer has, gives it a real kind of smoothness. Then on top of that, you've got these more kind of silky qualities, a bit of kind of treacly brown sugar in there, like I said, some chocolate sitting underneath it, and you do get more and more kind of woody elements coming out of this beer the further into the aroma that you go. So the smell out of this one is absolutely beautiful. In terms of the hoppiness, there's not too much going on in this one. I mean, when it's 18% ABV, the focus is of course going to be on the malty side of things. So yeah, so for me, this one has, there's a little touch of earthiness to this one. You do get a little bit of an almost kind of herbally smoothness there, one or two little tiny floral elements out of the beer, and then also a little bit of grassiness. That describes the green side of this beer pretty, you know, straight up, but those hoppy notes are by no means the focus of the beer. They do take a bit of a backseat compared to the malty side of things, but I would say there is a little bit of a fruity presence to this one, and that is something that you would expect from a big beer like this one. Yeah, so on the fruity side of things then, for me it does have a little bit of that almost kind of cakey phenolic sort of thing. So there's a little bit of a kind of datey, almost slightly pruny kind of quality to it. A little bit of a kind of blackcurranty vibe, which I think is really quite nice. Would I say, is there a wee bit of a sharp raisiny note to the beer? I think, yeah, when you take the beer in from a bit of a distance, there is a little bit of a sharper raisiny note to it. There's juicy plums in there, and there's also, as I say, those kind of datey, pruny sort of things. The fruity side of the beer almost has a little bit of a kind of Christmas puddingy, cakey sort of thing to it, but at the very kind of front edge of the nose, you've got a more blackcurranty, blackberry-ish sort of vibe to the beer as well. In some ways, you know, this beer really strikes me as quite an old school Imperial Stout in a lot of ways. I've had quite a few Imperial Stouts that have this same kind of aroma profile, to be honest with you. So I think it's, I would say about this one, this strikes me as a very kind of old school Imperial Stout. You know, the sort of things we would be drinking back in, you know, between 2012 and sort of 2015. It's nothing like these kind of pastry stouts and stuff that we're getting these days. This is a very old school, bourbon barrel aged, roasty toasty, you know, kind of, you know, punchy Imperial Stout in a lot of ways. That's the kind of vibe that I get out of the aroma of this one, so I hope that that kind of translates to you guys watching the video. But yeah, it smells absolutely awesome, this one. I'm just very, very curious to see how it turns out now, so let's have a go at this one. So this one is the Singularity, an 18% bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout from Lehe Pruulikoda in Keila to the southwest of Estonia in Harjumaa county in the northwest of Estonia. The second of my crazy birthday beer reviews, and hopefully this is another good beer. Like I said, a massive shout out and happy birthday to my friend Paul Romelli over at PA Brew News. He's having his 39th birthday, I'm having my 29th. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanja, skål, since this is Estonian, terviseks. Cheers. That's a beautiful, beautiful beer. It's absolutely crazy, but it is just beautifully, beautifully done. I mean, if you're going to produce a beer at 18% ABV, you need to know what you're doing, and these guys certainly do. I enjoyed the big 13-14% IPA that I had from these guys. Was it called Hop Harassment, if I remember the name rightly? That was an absolute monster. I think that was 14. That was either 13 or 14%. I really forget, which is crazy for an IPA. But you know, these guys really know what they're doing with the high alcohol beers. But these beers are ones that you definitely want to share with your friends, and I think this is what I'm going to have to do with this one. I'll need to share this one with my flatmate, I think, because I'm going to struggle. I am going to struggle to finish this thing, but it is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful beer. This is the sort of one that you maybe get, like, you maybe buy like 100 mils of this or something in the bar. This isn't one that you drink a 330ml bottle of yourself. It would be kind of stupid and kind of crazy to do that. But in terms of the the drinkability of this beer, it is definitely very, very nice. So yeah, this is just an absolutely insane beer, to be honest with you. So thumbs up to Lehe Pruulikoda once again for this one. So yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then and just see how we get on. So yeah, it's actually, with this beer, when you think about it compared to the Aroma, it is actually kind of what you would expect, to be honest. So straight away with this beer you can feel that lovely, smooth, oaky, woody quality just blanketing the middle of your palate. The thing you're also going to notice about this beer is that the further you go into the aftertaste, that woody quality just gets drier and drier as you go further with it. And I think it's, I do think it is, that adds a really nice edge to it actually. That's what I was meaning when I was saying that this beer really has the kind of old school Imperial Stout quality. I mean, the new Imperial Stouts that we're getting are big and sweet and things like that, but the Imperial Stout was always meant to be a little bit more kind of robust and bitter and things than a lot of the ones that we're getting now. So this beer's got a lovely kind of smooth slickness to it. It's got that big infused flavour that you would expect of bourbon barrel aging. Remember, as I always say, when it comes to barrel aging the beer, some of the mouthfeel gets taken away. I hate to think what this beer, how thick this beer would have been before it was barrel aged, because even as it stands, it's just insane. But at 18% alcohol, that's not surprising. But yeah. But yeah, this beer is just, it's beautiful, as I say. So that lovely, smooth, oaky, woody silkiness, that blankets the middle of your palate. But as I say, the further you go into the aftertaste, you get more of that roasty, toasty malt there. Particularly when you go towards the back third of your palate, you can feel that roasty, toasty, black malty quality to it. As you're in that border region between the middle third and the back third of your palate, that's where you get the biggest part of the roasty, toasty quality out of this one. So I really like that about this beer, and that builds and gets more and more bitter the further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, the middle third of your palate is where most of the complexity in this one is. So you got that smooth, that smooth kind of slick, woody backbone to it. As you go towards the front of that middle third of your tongue, you'll get some nice kind of woody vanilla notes to the beer, and then as you go further back on top of that, you get the nice kind of smooth. You do. I think I've got a feeling that this might have a bit of oatmeal and stuff in it. Does it say it has oats in it? Hold on. Oh, it's got wheat in it. So wheat. That kind of makes sense. That explains why the beer does have a little bit of that kind of smoothness to it. So on top of that kind of woody layer, you do get a real kind of smoothness to the beer, and that will be the wheat that's giving it that one. That probably explains why this beer does have a little bit of head on it. Wheat always helps the kind of head retention, but yeah, you can feel that smooth. It does have a little bit of that very smooth and very slick kind of brown bready quality sitting on top of that woodiness in the middle of the palate. But on top of that breadiness, then you do have. It's hard to tell which one kind of comes first, if you like, but you've got a mixture in that very centre of your palate. You get some really concentrated treacle molasses type brown sugars, and then I think underneath that, in fairness, you do get some big kind of chocolatey notes out of this one. I do think the chocolate, as you progress further into the aftertaste, becomes more like a kind of high cocoa chocolate, a 70-80% cocoa, but that I think is mainly because of the roasty, toasty, black malty components that are coming out of this beer. It certainly has a little bit of that. It certainly does have a little bit of that kind of robust, Russian Imperial Stout quality to it. I think it's fair to say that about this one. Yeah, I think it is definitely fair to say that about this one, but the bourbon barrel aging and the sheer alcohol in this one is really making it a lot sweeter than a lot of Russian Imperial Stouts. I think that's kind of a given with this one. But yeah, the quality of this beer is just unreal. This is the best one I've had so far from Lehe Pruulikoda, to be honest with you. But like I say, this is a treat beer. This is by no means one that you're going to drink every day. This is a night-ending beer for sure. but it's beautifully executed. So you know, you have to give Lehe Pruulikoda praise for that. It's a crazy beer to brew, but they've certainly pulled it off rather magnificently, I have to say. But yeah, in some ways it's very straight shooting. It doesn't do anything that you wouldn't expect of the style, but it's just really well executed. I think that's a good way to kind of sum up what's going on in this one. In the back third of your palate, you've got a little bit more of that roasty toasty base in there. On top of that, you get the smooth kind of slickness from the wheat, and you do get a little bit of a kind of brown bready type quality there as well. But as you move further forward, the smoothness comes out a little bit more, the thickness drops away as you move into the middle third of your palate, and then I think the roasty toastiness is there right in that border between middle third and back third of your palate. I really like that roasty toasty backbone that the beer has. This lets you know this is an Imperial Stout, and then in front of that, that's when you've got all these flavours that I was talking about, the nice wood to the bit of vanilla in there, the kind of slick, smooth, brown bready sort of thing from the wheat, the brown sugars, and the kind of chocolatey notes coming out of it. You've got a few, if you go to the very centre of your palate and then move forward, you've got a few kind of nutty qualities to the beer as well, and I do like that about this one too. So for me, it does have a really nice, it does have a very, very nice, just straight shooting Russian Imperial Stout thing about it. But obviously, it's hella boozy, as the Americans would say. This is just a big monster of a thing. So yeah, definitely going to have to share this one after the review. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Otherwise, I'll sip it for like 5-6 hours, something like that. But yeah. Malt base of this one is just absolutely beautifully executed. You start to get a few kind of subtleties to this beer later on, like, you know, a sort of tobacco, a sort of leathery kind of thing. You do get these sort of undertones coming out of the beer as well, but malty side of this beer is really nicely done. Back corners of the palate then, you've got a nice little bit of, you do have a nice little bit of a kind of earthiness to the beer. As you move further forward from that, the earthiness does kind of smoothen out a little bit. There's a little bit of a kind of herbal quality in there. And as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic as well. So you do get a little bit of that, but the floral notes are quite subdued in this one. This beer, of course, is far more focused on the malt and things. But around the front curve of the palate, you do get a little bit of a lighter grassiness. And again, it's quite minimal there. But the front third of your palate, that's where you get those lovely juicy fruity esters just rolling their way out of the beer in that kind of big oily bubble. So yeah, let's focus on that side of the beer then. I think this is very, very nice. So yeah, as you get to that border between middle third of your palate and front third of your palate, you really have a very, very nice sort of cakey type quality to the beer. It's a little bit like kind of Christmas pudding or brownie, or maybe a combination of both, to be honest with you. Quite a boozy kind of Christmas pudding, to be honest with you. So yeah, I do like that about this beer. But yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, you've got those big kind of oily, plummy kind of qualities. But then as you move further forward from that, you start to get a little bit of a kind of datey, pruny sort of thing to it. And again, it's this kind of boozy, kind of Christmas puddingy sort of vibe that you get out of this beer. But yeah, as you move further forward from that, you get those datey, pruny kind of notes. It does get a little bit figgy, and then on the very kind of front part of that front third of your palate, that's when you start to get the more oily blackberry, blackcurranty type qualities coming out of the beer. And for me, that comes together very, very nicely. So yeah, I really like how that side of the beer goes together. The fruits are big and oily. It's not anything surprising, this beer, in terms of the fruitiness, to be honest with you. Those, you know, big plums, then the prunes, the dates and all of this kind of thing, and then the figs and the black currants and blackberries. This is kind of exactly what you would expect from a big Imperial Stout like this. It's not surprising at all. I would be curious to know what hop they're using in this one. Is it a bit of Bramling's Cross? Is it a bit of yeah, Bramling's Cross from England, Northern Brewer from Germany? Could it be a little bit of Eureka or Williamette from America? Maybe even just Summit or something like this. I honestly don't know. There's quite a few hops that would give you this big red fruity this big red fruity profile, if you like. But the malty backbone in this really helps bring out these fruits really nicely. And I mean, underneath that front third of your palate, you do have that kind of almost boozy, cakey type vibe there. So this beer is really, really interesting from that perspective. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. This is just a beautifully, beautifully executed beer, and I'm really glad that I was able to review this one for you. I think I only paid about €7 or something like this, and for an 18% Imperial Stout, that's just daft. You know, that is just a crazy, crazy price. I think maybe, I don't know about Estonian wages and stuff like that, maybe it's that cheap just because of the level of wages and things like that, but you know, €7 for something like this is just stupid. It's just absolutely crazy, to be honest with you. So yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful beer, and I would recommend that you try this. But if you're going to buy a bottle of this, share it with probably 3 friends, maybe 2 friends at least. Share it with somebody, and don't just drink this yourself. And that's exactly what I'm going to do when I finish this review. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, this beer is most definitely full-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's a big, oily, slick thing, to be quite honest with you. You've got some really nice bitterness to this beer. What would we say about the IBUs of this one? Yeah, the IBUs of this beer are pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. It does have a nice... the bitterness, I think, is almost cancelled out by the big oily qualities and big boozy qualities that this beer has. I think this beer normally would be, you know, about 80, 90 IBUs. It would be at that kind of top end of the scale, but the kind of silky, brown, sugary notes of the booziness really just cancel a lot of that out. You can feel the sort of bitterness building on the sides of your palate there, but it's got a lovely big sweet silky malt base to it. So the middle of your palate, like I say, very smooth. There's a slickness underneath from the bourbon barrel aging, but on top of that a lovely big oily kind of thing coming out of this one. Bit of bitterness on the side of the palate, then you've got these big oily, juicy, fruity characters out of this. So I think overall it's fair to describe this beer as being big, slick and oily. I think that's a good way to summarise the mouthfeel of this one. But it's a beautiful, beautiful beer, one that you definitely need to share with a few friends though, because it is pretty damn powerful, I have to say. But you know, when you buy an 18% Imperial Stout like this, that's what you should expect. I don't think there's much doubt in anyone's mind about that. But yeah, let's round off the review there then. So this one was the Singularity, an 18% Imperial Stout from Lehe Pruulikoda in Keila to the southwest of Tallinn in Harjumaa county in northwestern Estonia. Beast of a beer, and I thought this was a really nice one to review for the second of my 2 crazy beer reviews on my 29th birthday. So yeah, let's leave it there. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Lehe Pruulikoda as well. We will return to these guys for another review at some point in the future. Like I said, I do have a stronger beer to review from these guys, and you know, if this one is anything to go by, that thing is just going to be insane. It is just going to be absolutely insane. I won't tell you what beer it is just now, you'll find that out at a later date. But yeah, this is a beautifully executed beer. We've come to expect that from Lehe Pruulikoda, so if you see something from these guys, do have a go at it. They do have a few slightly lower alcohol beers than this one as well, so yeah, just try what you can get. But if you want to try one of the higher alcohol ones, which is where this brewery really shine, you know, try them with a friend. That would be my advice. That would be my advice for you. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful beer, this one, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. So yeah, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Lehe Pruulikoda. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching. Check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. The Singularity 18% bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout from Lehe Pruulikoda in Keila in the northwest of Estonia. Just absolutely crazy beer. Slanja, skull, cheers, Tervisex, and again a big happy birthday to Paul O'Mealy over at PA Brew News. Cheers.